Welcome to I'll Tell You When You're Older. I'm Christina. I don't know if all of you know, but most of you know, this is my mom. Introduce yourself, mother.
And I am Jamie. Nice to meet you guys. Welcome to our podcast. See Christina's mom. I am 65 almost
Oh, we're
in
going age.
June.
Oh, you're going to give everybody your age right off the bat.
Well, part of this conversation is talking about the generational differences. So I might as well give them a context early on
I
of
know.
my
I thought you were
generation.
Gen X, but you corrected me and you said you were a boomer.
I am 3 years between me and boomer and Gen X. So I'm still a boomer.
You call yourself a
Um,
baby boomer, though. Is there a difference? Like, is that a term, a baby boomer versus like a big daddy
There
boomer?
is a term. Yeah, technically the term is baby boomer generation. I don't know why. I think because during that generation, there were so many babies born. There was like this big uptick.
Or
That's what I
maybe
think.
it's
That's what I'm
because,
going with.
like, there is such a bigger I feel like there's a broader spectrum on people who are, like, old boomers and versus, like, people who are kind of like you said, a baby boomer. Maybe there's a difference between, like, the very, very beginning of the boomer generation versus, like, you.
I don't know. We'll have to explore that. We'll have to ask Chat GPT
Well, if you don't know
what
me,
the difference is.
I am a relationship coach. I started in 2020, so I've been a relationship coach now for, like, 6 years, which is crazy.
It's a long time. And I am a health coach. I am a fasting and weight loss health coach, as well as a meditation teacher and Reiki practitioner.
Why did you decide to get into that? I mean, I think we recorded one episode a long time ago, and you told the story about how you completely shifted your career, and people were kinda, like, shook it that you decided to do it such a late in life.
Um, I don't know, it was always a passion of mine. I loved health education. Actually, way back in the late '80s, I was in a PhD program for health education. Of course, when I look back now at what I was learning and helping people with then, I realize I maybe killed an entire generation because
How did that even
our knowledge has changed so much on what eating healthy looks like and what's right for your body and all of that. So now I'm doing a completely different type of coaching. And I gave up that career that during that PhD program when I was researching for my dissertation, I got this unexpected news that I was going to have a little girl,
Oh,
meaning Christina Marie. So I tried to continue with a little baby and very little help from um, her father. He was busy trying to get his career off the ground. And so I did drop out of my PhD program at the time. And so, but luckily things work out. And 37 years later, went back to it. And so now I'm doing what I was meant to do.
so it's never too late to start over pretty much.
Never too late to start over. Exactly. Or
I
continue.
mean, you didn't have me very young, like, you were, like, 28 when you had me, but I feel like we've been able
Correct.
to create, like, a pretty good dynamic with each other, even though we don't have that almost, like, Rory Gilmore girl kind of, like, same age pretty much, but I feel like we've been able to stay pretty close, minus a few years of our life.
I think so too. I've been very proud of our relationship. It's certainly a much better relationship than I ever had with my mom. Very different.
Mm,
But you also, not that there weren't times that you tried my patience, but you made it pretty easy. You were a really good kid. You were a good
yeah.
kid.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was alone a lot of the time, but I was also alone a lot with my brother and sister. So, I think I just had to grow up really freaking fast because if I didn't grow up and shove some soap down Paul's throat, I mean, like, who else was gonna do it?
Exactly, and I have a little guilt about that. Maybe we could do a whole episode on that someday. The, guilt of divorced parent guilt is a real thing. So,
But I would almost prefer I mean, some people ask not ask, but I think that some people are like, "Do I stay in a relationship before the kids, or is it better to just leave something that I know is not healthy for me?" And I don't think that I would ever hold it against you that you decided to divorce him because we would have learned 10 times worse relationship habits than we already did learn if you guys stayed together.
That is probably very true. And that's interesting. I bet that's a question that you get a lot as a relationship coach.
I don't think people ever will directly ask it. I think that they always think it and then just kind of don't know what to do moving forward. Do I do all of this work to make it work and stay, or do I just decide to leave? But if you make a decision that's best for you, I think that's ultimately best for your kids too.
I would agree with that. And I think that becomes really difficult for a parent. And I also think, since some of the topics I think we intend to get into during this podcast is generational differences between your generation and my generation. And then also, when you mention something like that, I think back to even my mother's generation, your grandmother.
What is that called?
Um,
Do you know what that generation's called?
she would have, I don't even know. I'd have to look
Maybe they
up
didn't even
that
have
one.
names for older generation.
She really was torn often with whether to leave your grandfather. And I think a lot of it had to do with her generation. You definitely didn't divorce as
Yeah.
much and you stayed for the kids.
Why do you think that is?
So
Do you think that no one taught you that it's okay to leave? Because when I was doing research for our podcast, I was looking at the generational differences. One of them did point out that the boomer women were taught more sacrifice, loyalty, endurance, and make it work mentality. And us, I mean, my generation is like, y'all don't respect my boundaries. Like, absolutely the fuck not. I think that you didn't really teach me anything about boundaries. Like, I think that it just kinda, like, started developing as, like, even social media started changing, and I would see content about therapy and boundaries and healing and all those different kinds of
mhm.
things.
Yeah, well, I think, I think you're correct in many ways that, when you think way back to grandma's generation, I mean, if she was still alive today, she'd be about 95. Back then, it was almost that whole scarlet letter divorce thing.
What does
And
that
you
mean?
really just like, you're looked down upon as a woman and a failure if your marriage fails, is what I got the gist of it. Even though, that was also the 70s and 80s, so there were definitely women who were divorced. But I know for, my mom, it would have been she saw it as it would have been a huge failure on her part to
Was
not
that
continue the marriage.
socially, like, friends would make you feel bad for that kinda stuff, or was it, like, her parents would have made her feel bad for it, or
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it was, like, kind of a combination of all of that. Um, and yeah, even in my generation, boomer, us women, I think we did more sacrifice and we did have that make it work attitude because we didn't think about ourselves, women, I don't think as much.
well, you also just said that before you said you sacrificed your career pretty much the minute you got pregnant with me. So it's not even just about sacrificing in relationships and staying
Yeah.
for no reason. Like you literally were like, nah, I'm gonna give this up.
uh, Yeah. Yeah. It was a very it was a very different time. I have so many friends that I knew back then. No, I went to private I was very fortunate, as you know. I went to private schools, private girls' schools, in high school and, um, fantastic colleges, Ivy League colleges, and many of my friends did. And then I'm seeing all my friends with this great education. They have their jobs the first couple years, they get married and they're quitting their jobs. These are women who went to Stanford and Harvard and Brown and all of these amazing schools. And not shortly after they got married, certainly after the first child, so many of them quit working and quit their jobs. I'm like, wait a minute, we put all this into ourselves. Not that raising children isn't an amazing career and important, but it was just a very interesting to watch. And
Yeah.
certainly in hindsight, interesting to see that.
Do you think any of your friends regret that? Like regret we giving up their careers? Or I guess it's hard to ask if you regret anything because I feel like anyone's kind of always like, well, it worked out the exact way it was supposed to, and I'd do anything for my
Exact.
kids and stuff like that.
Yeah. I did see some of them trying to go back to work when their kids were older, but it's difficult to.
I feel like if a millennial like, if we were to give up our careers, that's more looked down upon than, like, anything else, I feel like.
Interesting. But and I think either way is hard on women, I
Now why
mean,
is that? Why is it so hard for I feel like you can't win. I feel like you're, like, either too big or you're too skinny, or you work too much or you don't work enough at all, or, it's like that one scene from Barbie where she's kind of, like, breaking down and talking about, like,
right?
literally there's, like, no winning unless you're, like, perfectly in the middle center of the balance of this, like, what are those things called that you use to measure shit? The level.
The scale? A
Yeah, the
level.
level thing.
Yeah, no, that's really is true. Being a woman is difficult, and I know this isn't about just, "Oh, woe is me women," because we also have some of the most amazing opportunities, but it's interesting how along the different generations, it's almost underneath it all, sometimes society has always expected the same things from us.
Like what?
I mean, still, and correct me if I'm wrong, even your generation, do you see I know dads are getting way more involved, but isn't childcare still kinda more on the female?
I would say so. I think it's just more of an expectation. It's like you'll still hear some women say, "Oh yeah, my husband's babysitting," but then like you'll hear the women stand on business and be like, "It's his freaking children. What do you mean he's babysitting?" Like that's just like I feel like so ingrained in people's brains that of course it's
Right.
all more on the mom than the dad, but
Yeah.
I do think
Yeah.
it is changing because, like I was talking about how the differences between, like, boomers and millennials, boomer men were definitely raised to provide money, 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 and that was everything that their worth was tied to, and suppress any emotions or feelings or anything along those lines. Millennial men are
Mhm.
definitely having more emotional awareness, I will say that, but from my experience, they're definitely still struggling to apply it sometimes. Like, there's the knowing and the logic versus then being able to actually apply it in real life.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, not a whole lot of emotions in, not all before we get hate mail, but in boomer men.
The boomer generation, men, like, would they ever have gone to therapy? Like, I feel like therapy has always been such a thing that, like, was defined as you're weak. Like, why do you need to go to therapy?
Yeah, I never knew any men in my generation who said woke up one day and said, "Oh, I'm so excited to go to therapy."
Yeah, yeah,
If
and
there was
I've been
any
having a
and
lot of guys book calls with me, a lot of men, also a lot of older men too, and you're realizing that maybe you should have done this work a long time ago. Maybe we wouldn't be here where we are now.
exactly. Yeah, and in my day, if they ever went, it was definitely the wife dragging them to marital therapy,
Did you guys ever go
for
to
sure.
marital therapy?
Yeah, I think maybe, like, 6 months after we got married.
What?
Actually, I think even before we got married. I think we went to therapy even before we got married a couple times.
Was it beneficial? Like, did you feel obviously, like, the result is beneficial, even if you didn't stay together, even if you realize that you shouldn't be together, it is still beneficial if you ask me. But did it help you guys?
It helped us in the end when we went after I or when at the end of our marriage, when
Yeah,
we went, because we didn't really realize we weren't right for each other, and so it helped us end the marriage.
I think that's fair. That's a hard decision in itself. But you made it for you, or did you make it for us?
Both, because I think I was in a place that I couldn't give you guys what I needed to give you if I had stayed in the marriage.
Do you wish you would have done anything
Yeah.
differently?
How long's this podcast? You know what? I would have done so many things differently.
That's fair.
Yeah, not just with the marriage, but in life, but hindsight's 2020.
Don't you think that decisions put us exactly where we're supposed to be?
I try to think that. The spiritual side that I try to move towards tells me that, but then there's moments that, you still think you would have done wish you'd done things differently.
Well, did like I thought adulthood would look quite differently than it does now.
Yeah. Where in what way?
I think based off of a lot of like the movies that I was watching, like growing up, you know what I mean? You think that it's all going to be just like whimsical and easy, and I'll just get my dream job working at like a magazine, and then like maybe I'll fall in love with someone who's like really rich, and then I could just like travel, and that's easy, you know what I mean? But like, no, it's not like that at all.
Like Legally Blonde, Devil Wears Prada, all those
Yeah, or
movies
even
or
Uptown Girls, like, I loved the movie Uptown Girls with Brittany Murphy, like, and she was so whimsical and everything was so easy for her. Granted, it's kind of a sad movie, but at the same time, like, you just, like, think that you're gonna live in this, like, beautiful, lofty apartment and, like, you got to just do whatever you wanna do, and that part's just supposed to be so easy and whimsy and just, like, fun.
Yeah, but unfortunately well, it's never like that for any generation. It's never like in the movies, I don't think. But your generation, even though I think I think there's sometimes too many memes riffing on your generation, but your generation really went through some shit,
You're fucking telling me. We've been going through some shit ever
you
since
know?
9/11 happened, and I don't think it's ever stopped since then.
Yeah. You guys saw a lot.
We still do. Now I feel completely numb. I feel, like, completely numb these days every time, like, I'm scrolling and I see something that's going on in the world. Not only because it's just so frustrating and so annoying and I've seen it so many times, but now we're at the point where, like, all the information is out there, okay? Like, we all have the truth, we all have the information, we all know shit's corrupt, we all know everything's messed up and, but nothing happens. That's the most frustrating part for me. It's like we're consistently being inundated with people being like, "I know this is wrong. I know this has happened. Guys, at Sea Island, like all these freaking kids, like," and nothing freaking happens. And I just feel like my generation is exhausted. I have like hardly any motivation to continue to like work hard and grind and like hustle and like all that hustle culture that we were taught would like get us somewhere successful in our life, and it's just I feel just like it's almost like a permanent burnout.
How much do you think social media also played into that? And you're on the cusp. You did have a lot of years without social media.
Yeah, which was great. I'm grateful for my childhood. I'm grateful for my high school years. I'm grateful that I got to, like, be able to go and party and, like, you had no idea where I was and couldn't, like, find me on a GPS and all that kind of shit, like, track me down because half the time I think I was just in the back of a car, like, stoned, listening to loud ass music, going to a random house in a basement party. Um
Good to hear.
but that part, that was fun, not feeling like I had to worry about posting or creating a life, for social media. I feel like sometimes for a while, people were, like, making plans and doing things so they could just post about it instead of just, like, living life in general.
Right. Yeah, like even just the 4 years difference between you and your siblings made a difference with social media's impact.
Yeah, but Paige and Paul, I still feel like they had a pretty good run without being so social media focused.
Right.
'Cause I couldn't imagine being in high school and having to navigate the social media aspect of things and, like, how girls literally will show up to school these days with, like, full skincare done, a full bead of makeup on, and everyone has to have the trendy thing. Like, I could never. I could have
Mhm.
not navigated something like that. It was hard enough being in high school in general, but to be fair, I did like my high school experience. Like, I cannot complain about high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't imagine it today. I mean, first of all, I went to a private girls' school, so from kindergarten through 12th grade. So I wore uniforms every day of my life, which was the most freeing, wonderful thing in the world. And
Really?
being with all girls, you didn't care what you looked like when you're going to school with all girls.
That's true.
So we would like bandanas on our hair and the whole 9 yards.
And also most of your friends,
Um,
I feel like, are still from school, like, when you did go to the all-girls school, like, aren't, like, majority of your friends, like, long, long, long time friends?
my closest besties are people I met still from junior high and high school. Yeah.
Why do you think you were able to maintain friendships like that? Because I have one friendship that I'm still, like, ride or die with, obviously, and I met her when I was, like, 10, of course, but that's it, just one.
Wow. I don't know. We were just in a bubble. Life was just so much in some ways, growing up in I was in the 70s and the early 80s was just so easy.
But
We
what was
just
easy about it? Was it easy because of the this is gonna sound bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, almost like the ignorance of, like, everything that is going on around us, like, we were able to be much more present in our own worlds versus now we're fed so much information and it's almost, like, overwhelming.
I think that was absolutely part of it. We didn't have and granted, I am very aware I'm coming from a privileged background.
Yeah.
I'm very
For anybody
cognizant.
that's listening, okay, I will say that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was based off of my mom's side of the family. So she had
Loosely based,
loosely
but
based,
yeah.
but picture big house, Beverly Hills kind of a vibe.
So we did, I'm very aware of that. I don't take that lightly. However, that being said, no, we didn't have a 24 hours news cycle. You know, CNN was just coming out when I was like late high school. And that was the only like 24-hour news cycle. Back then we had, the 7 o'clock news, for half an hour. So we didn't have the constant barrage of the news and what was happening. And it was just, yeah, it was pretty insulated. We didn't have cell phones, obviously. And going to a small girls' school, you really did make really great bonds with your girlfriends.
Do you feel like my generation is trying to make things better and have more quality of life? Because I feel like millennials have been kind of like the first generation to kind of like talk about healing and growing and navigating like or breaking generational patterns and all that kind of stuff. And I think the first time I set a boundary with you, you were like, "What? What is about? What the heck?" But, like, I feel like my generation is
No,
also starting to get into the mindset of, like, you don't have to hustle so hard to be successful in life and trying to just, like, actually be present and enjoy and spend time outside and to, like, break the, like, corporate climbing mentality, or is that,
right.
like, not the direction we should be going in? Because I think it is. I'm all down for, like, getting paid to exist.
That's a really interesting question. And that brings up both maybe a little bit of worry from my old school brain.
Mhm.
Like, and this is something I think might be interesting to go deeper into another episode. Are you guys planning enough for the future?
Mhm.
Now that I know how effed up the future can be if you don't plan for it, because um, I really did not, and it's not easy for me today at 65 and the issues I've experienced. So that does concern me a little bit about this generation being so now. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but it does seem much more now and not as concerned about that. And that's a generalization. Of course, not everyone in your generation
Yeah.
is, but it seems like that is out there. And I know it's funny that you say with the work-life balance. Here's an example that I was kind of like, are we swearing on this podcast? What's our
Yeah.
level on this podcast?
Yeah, I'll label it explicit. I've already cursed a few times.
It's like, what the fuck? So prior to my current career, I was a recruiter for 25 years, as you know, obviously. And so, but lately, like the past, say, 10 years when I was still recruiting, more and more often, I would get younger people, your generation, and the first thing when I would talk to them about with the job, they want to go, work-life balance,
Yeah.
work-life balance.
How much
I'm like,
PTO do I
shut
get?
the fuck up. You're telling me you want a job. Let's talk about the work, shall we? And
Well,
it took me a really long time to accept that whole, "Eh, what about the work? You gotta put in the time and work."
but
But
think
all
about
my
it this way.
young clients wanted not to work. It's like, then why are you calling a recruiter?
Well, how can I show up and be my best if all I'm doing is work, 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 work? It's almost like then you really don't wanna be working anymore because your whole life becomes work. But I do think we are less future focused and more about being present in the now because none of us have an idea of what our freaking future is gonna look like. It changes literally every single day, especially lately. Like, one day I'm like, "Oh, things are good, things are great, okay, like, the economy can get better." The next fricking day, gas is literally $6. So we're all kind of just like, "F it." Like, I d literally like, I'm somewhere in the
Right.
middle. Like, I like to save, I like to feel cushion, but I do also feel like sometimes I, like, hoard my money out of fear of the future, but that goes into, like, healing, money, trauma, and, like, all that different kind of stuff we could talk about, but at the
Right.
end of the day, like, I think I fall somewhere in the middle of, like, "Fuck it, let's ball, like, let's go on a vacation," versus, like, "No, I need to save all my money for a rainy day."
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there when at least the young people I worked with in that job, a lot it was more when they would say work-life balance, they really wanted more of that balance of not working
Well, what does
than
balance
work.
mean to you? Like, when you hear people say work-life balance, like, what do you think that means?
All I can say is what I was told a lot, like wanting to be out of that office by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
or, having, you know, every holiday in the book off, like Groundhog Day. And I don't work weekends or take calls. And to me, that's just not realistic if you're having a career. Maybe there's a career out there, but I don't know many people who have made it successful with that kind of tight guidelines around how they work, at least in my generation. If y'all have really figured out how to do that, more power to you, your generation. But I don't know. I just came up with you work hard, you work your ass off, and then at the end of the day, when you're 65, you get to have all the pleasures.
Okay, well, then let me challenge you. Did you work your ass off? Because you did. I know you worked your ass off, but like you're 65 and you have challenges. So that mentality is proven
True.
false.
And that's a conversation for when we get to things I wish I had done better in my life.
Married rich.
Um, nah, I should have listened to my mother. I gave her a really hard time when she told me to marry rich, but yeah,
Yeah, I know, me
it's
too.
fine.
You told me the same thing. And I was like, no, I'll marry for love.
Yeah, well, see where that got me. My second marriage was yeah, but you know, I made the mistake of I'm admittedly not great with money. I didn't grow up being taught how to be good with money.
Yeah.
And I just kind of always figured something would happen. But then, quite frankly, when your dad and I split, he didn't give me any alimony. I did it all on my own. My parents, your grandparents, they would help absolutely when I was in a tough spot. But raising three kids with, I was originally teaching
Hmm.
when we first got divorced, first grade, and I definitely wasn't able to make ends meet during that. So that's why I switched to recruiting. But, it's an all sales job. So it was up and down and trying to support three of you. I wasn't a saver. There's really no
Well,
place
how
to.
can
And
you?
then putting you three through college. I did that on my own. So yeah, do I have retirement money? Absolutely not. In hindsight, would I've tried to figure out something differently? I would have. But that's my biggest fear for your generation is not saving for that time of life.
Well, it's also things have changed so much. Like, I don't even think Social Security exists anymore. Like you see with Pappy, like he is what 95, and what it's like nothing is helpful for our future regardless. So it's almost like we're expected to save, 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 save for not even a guarantee that we can actually retire someday comfortably, unless like what we just live off of nothing. Like I walk out of my house and I'm spending fucking $200 these days. I can't even breathe air without spending money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a difficult choice. It's like, um,
Like, don't I want to just
and you
enjoy
could
things too? Like, don't you wish you would take also, like, a vacation? Like, when was the last time you actually took a vacation? Because 'Cause y'all keep saying, "We'll save, we'll go, we'll go, we'll go one day."
we're planning one
See?
in the future.
I mean, is this what you thought adulthood would look like? Like, is this what your parents, like, exuded, like, what adulthood would look like? I know I told you my fantasy of what I thought adulthood would look like, but
Probably not. Yeah, I really thought that you just would get married. I I came up with, again, like I was talking about before, most of my friends who married better than I did the first time, they didn't have to work, they were able to buy a home when they were really young and starting out. They could be there for their kids, their husbands worked. I didn't have that. So for me personally, it didn't turn out the way I thought it would.
yeah,
Um, you know, I had to always work with you guys and sometimes really late nights. And then there's that guilt for you, more in particular than your brother and sister, because you took over a lot of the role. You were a big sister extraordinaire. I have to give you that for sure. You were 4 years older than them, and you helped out tremendously with them.
I know. So sometimes I would do it as a teenager, though, like, I would pile all my homies in a car, and I had, like, 4 of my dude friends in a car, and then I'd have to go pick up the twins, and then we'd all be, like, shoved in the back, so, like, it wasn't perfect, but I would do it.
And forever grateful for that as well.
But do you
Yeah.
think that our generation expects too much then from how society should be? Because I expect us to be able to at least live our life successfully. Like like should be no way, shape, or form that my household, two adults, like My husband makes at least, he makes good money. I make decent money as an entrepreneur, but, like, the thought of even having a kid right now financially is just, like, mind blowing, and I feel like we expect things to be easier for us, especially after seeing what Mom Donnie can do when he actually cares about people in New York City that, oh my god, he actually stuck to his word and can do things that actually help people, and I expect that. I think, like, I have expectations that it should be easier than it has been for us, not hard.
Back up to what the way you said something in the beginning of that.
Why
I think
are we
every
being
genera
unrealistic or expecting it to be easier? Are we expecting too much?
I think every generation in their own way has expected things to be different and been had an idealistic side. When you look back to, the '60s, they were fighting it was the young generation was fighting that Vietnam War, who was trying to make all those changes to make the society better.
Yeah.
So I think every generation has that idealistic piece to it. Um, it just looks a little different, but there's always that group of people who want to get out there and get justice, I
Mhm.
think. So I think that's a common thread through every generation. It looks a little different as the times change. You guys aren't like on hippie communes and,
Sometimes
free
I
love.
wish.
Well,
Can
I don't
I
know if
just
you're
go
doing free love and all that.
sometimes I wish that's how it could be these days. But it is also the boomer generation that is making everything totally bad. Y'all, those motherfuckers won't retire. Can we
I think there are even some of those guys are older. I don't even know what generation they are. I'm the end of the boomer.
Yeah, we're baby boomer, remember.
That's a whole nother topic that there should the term limits and you should have to retire and the state of that is
Did you see
we don't
Greg
need
Johnson get on the stage
oxygen
the other day and say that they all have to do insider trading because how dare any congressman live under $174,000 a year? And you guys are telling all of
insane.
us that minimum wage is easily live offable? Y'all are fucking delusional.
Delusional. I don't think that we should be run by octogenarians, this country. Just saying. All it should not be all 80-year-old, 90-year-olds. I'm just saying.
Oh my god. Who knows? Maybe the millennials will come in one day and we will save the day. I have faith. I have faith that, like, things
What
can.
was was it the conversation about conspiracy theories
What about
that
it?
after that conversation, did I text you, "We should bring this back"? It was some conversation we had, which was we argued, but
Yeah.
we came together. You know what I mean?
Well,
Was
I
it
I
that one?
I don't know because that one day we were at your house for brunch, you got all, like, uncomfortable and upset with me talking about, like, different conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Like the moon
Right, and I think
like when I was talking about how I thought the moon landing could be fake. Could be
right.
fake.
But I'm thinking after you left that day is when I thought, it's kinda cool that we can argue, like and it wasn't even an argument, have that kind of a conversation, and I think the perspective was a little different because our generations.
You got so
Yeah.
defensive when we were talking about conspiracy theories.
I know. I don't know, to this day, I don't know what it triggers in me, but for some reason it triggered me.
Why? Is it because it's hard to kinda, like, think that we've been lied to or manipulated for so long? Like, it's hard to kinda, like, grasp your mind around the fact that a lot of, like, what we've been taught could potentially be unreal or fake, and then it disrupts your entire belief of reality because did you even know the guy who, McGraw-Hill, guy who creates every textbook for school,
Uh-huh.
every book, like, created the entire school curriculum more or less. He homeschooled his kids
That doesn't surprise me. It's pathetic.
because they teach all of us to just fall in line and do a system, and they don't teach all of us how to, like, actually think. Like, what if they were to actually teach us how to tap into our own energy and actually how to, like, manifest and actually use all of our energies together to make good shit happen? We would be too powerful, and then all of the billionaires wouldn't be billionaires.
I do think that there's definitely some conspiracy theories I kinda believe in. I believe in, like, I question, did that really happen? But some, like the moon, I mean, it was so part of I was there, and I knew, like, the astronauts' kids, and so to me, it was real.
Like, I feel like we should have been taught astrology in school in depth, like, very deeply in depth on how to use astrology. Through
Well,
your
you
best
thought you were signing up for astrology.
shut up. They sound the same. I was so mad because learning about astrology is so much cooler. Like millionaires and billionaires use astrology to their benefit, you know. I'm gonna start asking
Astrology.
ChatGPT every day, like, okay, what is the chart? What is my chart doing today, and how should I move today? Like, what do I do today?
Love the reading. Jess gave me a reading a couple years ago. It helped. It was like eye opening. It explained so much of my life, including my how devastated I was with Chrissy because of the what house siblings were in for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, thank you. That was a lot. We jumped all over the place, but I feel like it's just normal and natural when I'm talking to my mom to just talk about anything that comes to my mind. I think that I'll tell you when you're older is just a great way to just connect and banter and have fun, compare our generations, and just kind of like share some shit that maybe we didn't talk about growing up.
I love that. I'm excited for this journey and all the chaos, communication, and hopefully fun and laughter that we'll pursue.
I know. So once a week, Fridays, and can't wait to hear what you guys think. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, honey.